Newly elected ANC Nelson Mandela Bay Regional Chairperson Andile Lungisa has challenged ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe. Mantashe asked Lungisa to step down, saying his election was against ANC policy. Andile Lungisa says Mantashe misinterpreted the rule and denied him a fair chance to present his case. The provincial office asked Andile Lungisa to resign by no later than tomorrow. Meanwhile, Lungisa says only the NEC has the power to ask him to quit. This comes as Andile Lungisa was ordered to resign from his post or face disciplinary action. The ANC Provincial Executive Committee says they concur with the decision of the ANC Top 6 that Lungisa should step down. Lungisa was elected as chairperson a week ago under a dark cloud of Party Secretary General Gwede Mantashe advising against it. The provincial office asked Lungisa to resign by no later than tomorrow, failing which he will face the party's disciplinary action.
We are basically implementing the decision of the ANC to ensure that the matter is actually put to its logical conclusion. It has been bringing the unnecessary negativity and the unnecessary halabaloo in the public domain. So we are acting on the basis of instructions that we have got from national, but also with clear conviction that this is a correct decision.
The row that is now escalating was started by Secretary General Gwede Mantashe's letter asking Lungisa to refrain from contesting. And let's go across now to my colleague, Urape Tsumatlobo, for details of the ongoing spa.
Now, looking at the charges, Andile Lungisa has defied the ANC constitution. According to Lungisa, his counters that the Secretary General appears to have misinterpreted the rule in question. The next charge by the Secretary General, ANC constitution prohibits Lungisa as a provincial leader from contesting a seat in the regional structure. According to Lungisa, Rule 17.4 reads, a member elected to the PEC shall resign from any position held in a lower structure. The third charge, we have consistently prohibited comrades from higher organs of the ANC from contesting positions in the lower organs. Lungisa's counter is that his eligibility to contest the position was discussed and cleared by the PEC as well as the NEC. The fourth and final charge, Lungisa must stand down as the Nelson Mandela Bay ANC chairperson. Lungisa says the Secretary General lacks the authority to instruct the elected chairperson of the region to stand down.
I'm joined in studio by Professor Sipho Siepe and Botsang Mwilwa, political analyst. We did invite Oscar Mabuyane, ANC Provincial Secretary, and I believe he's not available. Gentlemen, good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. I mean, when they refer to the PEC and that the Regional Executive Committee and the NEC were present when Andile Lungisa had put his hand up to be nominated, that everything was above board. Where is the disjoint now with what Mantashe is saying?
We need to primarily correct something. The NEC and the top 6 were not there. Members of the NEC and the top 6 were there.
Yeah.
If you say the NEC was there, then it means the African National Congress NEC was represented.
Correct, but members of the NEC, do they have voting power? Can they endorse a member of the ANC?
That's what we should discuss.
All right.
Yeah, I think maybe we should start first by underscoring the fact that constitutions have a way of creating these challenges, because normally when they are written, there's no anticipation of the reality that will unfold. The constitution of the ANC is very clear about a number of things, and they are spelled out. It says that 17.4 that is being quoted, and also there's 12.14, and there's also 27. So there are a number of clauses. What they're saying, if you're elected to the NEC of the ANC, you will have to resign from any structure, lower structure. But what this is what it says textually. So when you are going to interpret it, you must first read what it says. And it says also when you are elected directly to the PEC, you must resign from any lower structure. So what was intended was to avoid a situation where people serve in two structures that are at different levels. So what was not anticipated was a possibility where somebody would be moving from a higher structure to a lower structure. But the main notion that says once you are elected directly to a higher structure, you must resign. There's an anticipation of a possibility where a person can belong to two structures, and then the constitution said you resign from the lower structure. So what Andile is saying, he's reading it as literal as that, but there is nothing in the constitution that is so specific that says once you are in the higher structure, you cannot contest for a lower structure. So what Gwede was saying, it was simply understanding that the logical progression is for people to move from the lower to the higher. And now we have a situation that is very different. But the most important issue to record here is the constitution that is very clear that says you cannot serve on two structures at the same time, especially when they are at different levels.
So, no, Andile argues that the SG misinterpreted the clause and arguing that he is eligible and members of the NEC, as you correctly stated, had endorsed his appointment and that only the branches that have nominated him have the power to essentially or effectively tell him to quit or not, as part of the constitution or the democracy within the ANC. Isn't it? We always hear that the branches are the backbone or, of the party.
Cindy, both you and Prof have actually articulated this very well. There's two elements. One, the Constitution of the African National Congress is actually silent about downgrading on post. That's one element. It's talking about if you are a member of a branch, you can go to a regional structure. If you're a member of the regional structure, you can go to a provincial structure. But it's silent about the vice versa. That's one element. The second element is you are correct that the African National Congress has always said the branches are the hardcore and the heartbeat of the African National Congress. What the branches decide will hold water. Now, in this instance, the branches of the ANC in that particular region have decided that Andile should stand for chairmanship or for leadership in the region. And Andile is contesting. He's saying to the Secretary General, I don't think we should personalize it. We should look at Gwede. Andile is responding to Gwede Mantashe because Gwede Mantashe is the SG of the ANC. He's actually saying to Gwede, but read the constitution properly. It is not actually making accommodation. I don't think, there's a difference between being ineligible. He is not ineligible to stand for the position he stood for. He is not. He stood for it and he contested it, failing democratically. He won the votes. But now, what he's questioning is the Constitution is silent about me resigning from the PEC to serve in the REC. And I think that's where the challenge is. There's a gray area in the Constitution. But I don't think the ANC should be focusing, as a big organization to be dealing with such minor issues. Yeah. The branches have spoken. The people on the ground have spoken.
What are the unintended consequences, especially when it comes to popularly and democratically elected leaders in that region, should Andile be forced to resign? Notwithstanding that this is a metro that, the ANC lost bitterly in the imposition of a leadership that wasn't necessarily approved of.
Well, I think the ANC must first clear that space in terms of what needs to happen. I mean, I think these things are logical. If you serve on the national parliament, we don't expect you to be serving also at the provincial level. If you're serving at a higher level of any structure, even in organizations, you can be invited, but you are not expected to be seen as serving in those structures. So the point that the Constitution was trying to put across is that being located in two structures is not acceptable. So the question, therefore, if Andile has to choose whether he wants to be in the PEC or whether he wants to be at the regional level. But he seems to have made that decision. And I don't think there should be a problem if he says, now I'm stepping down from the PEC level, because you cannot have that. So that should be very clear. But what normally happens is that there's always what you call best practice, which then later is seen as if it's policy, when in fact it is not expressed. And Gwede is simply referring to instances where he suggested to people that because you have served on this, you cannot compete. The Mukonyane matter and was a clear example, and they acceded. But I don't think they acceded from the perspective of having looked exactly and being pedantic about what the Constitution allows. So I don't think the ANC should be overly concerned. They should actually be saying, maybe we should clarify our position. But as I say, constitutions, when they are written, at the point of writing, there is no anticipation of the future. Reality has a way of throwing things that demand clarification. So this is an opportunity for them to clarify where they stand on the issue.
Yeah, let's juxtapose the example that you were making with, let's say, during the local government elections where we saw MP, a member of parliament, Togo Didiza, now being imposed in Tshwane. A mayoral position is a demotion, if you want to call it that. But there's a clear example of what we're contesting now.
Cindy, I don't think politically we should look at it as a demotion. A political party like the ANC should look at strategies. The region that Andile has contested into in the Eastern Cape, it's a very pivotal region where the ANC in the past years has not performed very well. And the branches in that region stood up at the moment and said, this is the person that we think will bring the organization to a level where we want it to be. Now, we shouldn't, and I believe in rules and regulations, but we should not be stagnant. We should not be bound by a constitution that failed to address the imbalances of processes. The ANC, as Prof has said, it should look at what is for the best interest of the organization at the moment. If the leadership of the ANC from the national level is going to try and force and impose rules and regulations on their branches that have stock, I don't say they must break the constitution, but if they are going to force and impose the rules and regulations which were not clear on branches, they may be faced with a revolt. They may be faced with important branches in the Eastern Cape that says, but you want to tell us what to do. Now, Prof has talked about Andile must do an honorable thing and say, but the constitution is saying I must resign as a PEC member and focus on the RIC because he has accepted it. The question is it for the best interest of the movement? Is it for the best interest of the organization? Where I'm sitting, I do not think so. I think the ANC should have used this. These are minor things. The organization is troubled. For them to go and focus on minor and petty issues, on somebody serving on PEC or REC in a region where they have lost a key metro, it is not going to benefit them. Like in Tshwane, as it has happened with Togo Didiza, they were trying to impose somebody, and I don't take anything away from Togo Didiza, but they were trying to impose somebody that was unknown to their constituency, that was not signed off by their constituency to the people, and they paid the price.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like the NEC now, the top six, is necessarily going to deliberate on the matter. It seems that it's a fait accompli in the sense that they're probably going to endorse what the SG is demanding. What are the consequences in your view of that?
No, I think what the ANC must do, it must embrace the challenges, especially those challenges that suggest that our rules must be very clear. Just because you did not anticipate something, you must not start beating yourself up. The question that you must ask that what is it that we're intended to do? And my reading of it is that the ANC was very clear about upward mobility within the structure of the ANC, because that is normally how people tend to develop their own career. You move from being a branch, you go to REC, then you go to the province, then you go to the national. So they understood only that progression. But like Buzang was also saying, that there are also strategic positioning that you take. For instance, if you take Helen Zille, who was leading the party in parliament, she felt that the party can best grow if she goes for the mayor of Cape Town, where they can show that where they govern, they can do better, and then use that to start moving towards higher levels. But what we have here is that this was not anticipated. But what is very clear to me is that the constitution of the ANC says don't work or don't locate yourself within two structures that are at different levels. But it says but it also anticipates that you'll compete. That's why it says once you have been elected directly at a higher level, you must resign. So you must anticipate a possibility where at a particular point in time, a person may belong to two. Then the person must choose one. Yeah. So Andile is faced with the same situation where he's a member of the PEC and he's been elected as a chairperson at the regional level. So I think the least the ANC could do is to say, we have a position that you should not serve in both. Can you select one? But the approach that Gwede had put is an approach that when we look at the Constitution, it is not supported by the Constitution. It may have been supported by practice. And there are times when practice dictated the behavior of members.
Okay,
and that is what
Andile
is saying. That's what Andile is saying. Andile is simply saying, Gwede, don't impose something that is not clear on me. The Constitution is not clear. However, I'm standing on my democratic right to occupy this position. And I don't think he is malicious. I don't think Andile is malicious.
I was going to say he's playing hardball.
I think he loves the ANC so much that he realized a vacuum at the regional level and he was prepared to scale down and say, we have problems at grassroots. I'm prepared to go down and address it without relinquishing the position that I'm occupying.
Yeah, but he has to choose Mike Teller. We're going to have to leave it there with Sangwelo and Professor Sipho Siepe. Always a pleasure being with you. Really appreciate it. We're also expecting Oscar Mabunyane, the ANC Provincial Secretary. Unfortunately, he was not available. Now,